So this is a topic that I am sure you have seen before. So we are going to walk through this, and then I'm going to give you a page to work on. We'll see how much we can get done in class, and the rest you can do at home. Okay?
No.
Yes.
No.
Should have seen. Should have done this before. So here we go. So we're going to talk about converting fractions to decimals and decimals to percents. And fractions to percents. All of these conversions and back again. Okay? Okay, so there are lots of processes that you could use to do this. I'm going to show you the one I use because it's very efficient and it might look somewhat different than what you might see on Education Perfect or you might have seen in the past, right? I am not going to be all excited and upset and disappointed if you don't do it exactly the way I tell you to do it, as long as the method you use works and works consistently. Okay? Remember that you will not have a calculator on this numbers test, with this assessment we do, right? So you've got to be able to do them by hand. So some simple, easy, basic rules are very handy. Many of these you're going to know, and we're going to point out. And so one thing I want you to do is, as we go through these, when I write down examples, one of the things I want you to do is I want you to tell me, is that a common or standard one? Now, you know what I mean by that. So like if I were thinking of fractions, what's a common or standard fraction? One.
Common's like a half. And
like a half, right?
Standard, something like
So,
3/8.
okay.
Like 20.
So, well, just come mean the same thing. So like 1/2, 1/4, even 1/8, although we're not as used to that, right? Remember the worksheet we did last week?
Yeah.
What were all the fractions? 1/2, 1/4, 1/8. They're the standard values, right? So very standard values. 1/5 is another one that's very common. Okay? All right, so let's talk about first. We're going to talk about how to convert a fraction to a decimal.
You must convert a fraction by converting a fraction.
Now, we already know that a fraction A over B literally means take A and divide it by what? B. Well, if you know that part, you already know how to convert it. So, all you're going to do is simply divide the numerator, which is which number? The top number, the A in this case, by the denominator. Easy as pie. So, again, some of these you already know. Some of these you will have to actually do the division. Yes, ma'am. It's all right. Just write on any paper right now. Okay. All right. So, for example, 1/2 literally means 1 divided by 2. Yeah? But using long division, does 2 go into 1? No. So remember, if you have a number where it won't divide evenly in, and you don't have any more numbers, we put in a decimal point and a what? 0. Right? We can extend it as far as we want to, as long as we put that decimal point in there. Yeah? So 2 goes into 1. It doesn't. But 2 goes into 10, what? 5 times. And 5 times 2 is 10. And 10 minus 10 is 0. And you just, when you're doing long division, you just go until you get a 0, right? So 1/2 is the same as 0. What? 5. Notice the 0 in front. If you don't have it, it's wrong. You know that. I just added the 0. Because after you put the decimal point in, you can put as many zeros as you want to. So just so that you can do the division. Sorry?
So how was right? Because
No. So 2 went into 10 5 times, but it's after the decimal. So watch again. We'll see. All right. All right. Hold on. Look at 1/4, right? We want to change that to a decimal. So that's 1 divided by 4. Will 4 goes into 1 how many times? None, right? But there aren't any other numbers. So I need some more. I need to make it look bigger. And I can make it look bigger by turning it into a decimal. Okay? So watch what I'm doing here, guys. All I'm going to do is put a decimal after the 1 and add a 0. But if I put a decimal down there, I also have to put a decimal where? Up at the top in my answer. Right above. They have to stack straight above each other. What now? Really should go both, but yeah, that'll work. Okay, now. Yeah. All right, are you ready?
So did you say how many times is 1 going to 4?
No.
Yeah.
How many times does 4 goes into 1?
Then 4 times.
4 can't go into 1. It's too small.
Oh.
The other way around you could. Well, 4 goes into 10 how many times? Somebody? Twice. 2 times 4 is 8. Subtract that from the 10, you get a 2. Still not big enough, so we're going to add another 0. 4, yeah, so 4 goes into 20 how many times? 5 times, which is 20. Sorry, I ran out of room. And 20 minus 20 is 0. You should be stacking this, but I ran out of room, sorry. And so once you get a 0, then you're done. So 1/4 is the same as 0.25. These are examples of some standard or frequent decimals that happen a lot. You're going to see them all the time. So you need to know that 1/2 is what? As a decimal? 0.5. 1/4 is what as a decimal? 0.25.
Well, yeah, I already know.
Okay? Yeah. And most of those are common to you, right? Yeah, but everybody, different places in the world, you know. Okay. All right. So let's look at the next one. 1/8. Okay. So that's 1 divided by 8. 8 won't go into 1, right? So that's where we're getting that 0. So we'll add a decimal point and add some more zeros and keep on dividing. And now we can keep dividing. So 8 goes into 10 how many times? Once, which is 8. Subtract it, you get a 2. 8 won't go into 2, so we'll add another 0 and get 20. 8 goes into 20 how many times? Twice, which is 16. Subtract that, you get a 4. Still not finished, so that means we put another 0. 8 goes into 40 how many times? 5 times, which is exactly 40. We got our 0. Now we're good to go. So 1/8 is equal to 0.125. Now that's not as pretty as 0.5 and 0.25, but it's one you need to know. Okay? Because remember, when you're working on a test, on this numbers test, what are you not going to have? A calculator, right? And some of them just happen so often that you need to know them. All right. Another one that you must know. 1/3. No, stop that. Let's do the long division. 3 divided into 1. Will 3 go into 1? No. So we add a decimal and a 0. 3 goes into 10, though. How many times? 3. And 3 times 3 is 9. If you subtract, you get another 1. Put another 0. 3 goes into 10 3 times, which gives you another 9. Which gives you a 1. You see anything wacky here happening here? Add another 0. Goes in 3 times. You get a 9. I get a 1.
It's going to keep going on.
It's going to continue to repeat for when?
Forever.
Forever.
It's never going to stop.
Okay? So, does anybody remember the notation for if this is repeating? Notice that the 3 is repeating. It's 0.3, and how do I indicate that it's going on forever? With a dot on top? Is that how you want to write it? Okay. Okay. That's one notation. Or 0.3 with a bar on top. Same thing. Okay? Either one's fine. Okay? And that tells us, that dot or that bar on top, guys, tells us that that 3 is going to just continue to happen forever. I'm sorry? No, you could get to other numbers. I think it should come, but for example, let's say, I don't know. Say we have 1/6. No. 6 goes into 1. No times, right? So we add our decimal and a 0. 6 goes into 10 how many times? Once, which is 6. So you subtract and get a 4. Okay. 6 won't go into 4, so we need another 0. 6 goes into 40 how many times? 6 times, which is 36, which gives us a 4. So we add another 0. 6 goes into 40 how many times? Which is 36. We subtract and get another 4. So what's happening? It's another pattern. It's repeating again. But see, notice this time we got a different number other than 1. It's going to be a 4 over and over and over and over. So it's not always a 1, but it will always be the same number all the time. Now, guys, be careful though here. So I want to write that it's 0.16. Do I put the bar over both the 1 and the 6? No. Which part of this is actually the repeating part? The 6. So you can either write it as a dot or 0.16 with a bar, but the bar only goes over the part that is repeating. If the repeating part was 2 digits, it would go over both. That's why I'd like the bar instead of the dots. 20 digits. Wouldn't matter. So, No, you really need to put the bar over all of them, otherwise you won't know that all 3 of them are repeating. Okay? Yes.
Can you write out a step-by-step process?
Yeah, that would be nice.
Okay. Well, you mean for the division part?
No, for like this.
For that whole part.
For this thing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, it's just long division, kids. All right. Yes, I can do that.
I don't know.
Confusing long. Yeah. We don't know our division. Nobody here does.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Who are you? Come on. All right. Long division. Okay. I'm doing it with a fraction, so it's a numerator, but it wouldn't always be a numerator if you're just doing straight line division. Okay, first, put the numerator inside the division symbol. Denominator outside. We're going to do one that actually works first, and then we're going to do one with a decimal. Okay? So, say, for example, we have 24 divided by 4. Yes, I know you already know. Well, let's do 84 divided by 4. I know you already know that you can do this one in your head, but it's fine. We're going to use, I want to show it with the long division. So the numerator goes inside. The denominator goes in front. Okay? Divide, the first digit of the numerator by the denominator, if possible. It doesn't always work. But in this case, first digit here is 8, and the denominator that is on the outside is 4. So will 8 divide by 4? Yes. 8 goes into 4. 4 goes into 8 how many times? 2 times. Okay? Put that number on top. Then it's just a process. Multiply times denominator. Remember, the denominator is just the number on the outside. I'm just using fraction terms because we've been using fraction terms. It's not really a denominator. It's called a divisor now. B, subtract that product. Product. Using a math word. Can anybody think about what product might be? The answer when you do what operation though? When you multiply. When you multiply, product is the answer. Okay? Under the numerator, then subtract. So, is everybody watching? Guys back there? So it's 2 times what am I dividing by? 4. 2 times 4 is what? 8. Subtract that. 8 minus 8 is, but it's in the 10 spot, so it's really an 80. That's because y'all are goofing off and you're not paying attention. 84 divided by minus 80. 80 is 4. Yeah? Then, simply continue. Right? So now the new number I have down here is a 4. 4 divided by 4 goes in how many times? Once. 1 times 4 is 4. And 4 minus 4 is 0. Okay? Remember that with just numbers? That didn't, where you had to have, the number didn't go in, so we had to add the decimals. Okay? So, if the denominator will not divide into the numerator, you must make the numerator bigger by using a decimal. Okay? And to do that, simply put a decimal after the number inside the division symbol. Can I just draw the symbol and you know what it means? So put the decimal after the number inside and on the top of the division symbol. So both places, one right above another. So be very careful that you make sure that you're stacking them really neatly, or else it will not work. So say we have, for example, 3/4. Very common fraction, right? That's 3 divided by 4. Will 4 go into 3? No. So it won't go in there at all, right? So that's why we get that 0. So what I need to do is I need to make it bigger by adding a decimal point. But if I put one down there, it also has to go right above there, right? Okay? Then put 0 after the decimal. So what you're doing is you're making it look bigger without really changing the size of it. Because 3.0 is the same as 3, right? Okay? So, but now it looks like a 30, doesn't it? And will 4 go into 30? Yeah. How many times, guys? 7 times. Excellent. Okay? So do you see what's happening is by adding the decimal, you're making it look bigger so that you can get a number that it will divide into. Then you just repeat the process. Multiply and subtract. So what's 7 times 4? 28, thank you. And we'll subtract. What's 30 minus 28? 2. Will 4 go into 2? Nope. So we'll just, because it's behind the decimal, we'll just stick another 0 behind it.
What's that?
Pardon? The division symbol. Yeah. Just the division symbol. All right. 4 goes into 20 how many times? 5. Good. 5 times 4 is 20. 20 minus 20 is? And I always know I can stop when I get a number down there that is 0. Okay? It's good? All right. Well, you're going to get plenty of practice on it because you're going to have to do the division by hand when you're doing the assessment. Okay?
When it's like a 2-digit number,
Mm-hmm.
would you like put, so let's say it was like 12
Mm-hmm.
over 8.
Okay.
Would you?
So that means 12 divided by 8. Now 8 will go into 12, won't it?
Yes.
One time. 1 times 8 is 8. Subtract them, you get a 4. But 8 won't go into 4, will it? So that tells us we need to make it look bigger by putting in a what? Decimal and then a 0. And 8 divides into 40 how many times? 5 times. 5 times 8 is 40. Subtract, you get a 0. So yeah, you just have the decimal later,
Yeah.
but wherever you need it. Was that your question? Okay.
What's the actual decimal of 3/4? Would it be 4?
So 3/4
Yeah.
is 0.75. Right? We got 0, and then we got a 7, and then we got a 5.
Wait, where's the 5 come
20, 40 goes into 25 times. 5 times 2. There you go.
Is 0.25 smaller than 1?
Yes. Okay. All right. Sorry? You bet. Okay. Here we go. Let me get my timer and my caller out. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Yes, please.
Can I do the next one?
So that's 2 divided by 5. Guys, it won't go in, so we add a decimal and some zeros. 5 goes into 20 4 times. 5 times 4 is 20. Gives you a 0. That's how you know you're done. Okay.